Stay right there. What are you waiting for? Kill him! Kill them both! No, wait a minute. Is it money you're after? I'll give you as much as you want.
May the saints forgive you, because I won't.
How's it going, Jin? So glad to be here today.
Well, I'm really glad that you decided that you pretty much decided to come on, and I was really excited because you did a great 2-part series so far on subconscious realms, and obviously we'll shout out to Lee, and because I also got my start on that show as well.
He's a collector of strange souls, isn't he? I love it. I love the story. I love how we're all so far apart. We're all finding each other. It's all connecting, and the mysteries are coming out through us, believe it or not, through all of us. And I'm talking about everybody who's sharing information out there on the internet, finding similarities through these cultures, through these legends, myths, religion, seeing the connection of it all. It's just amazing. And so for us to be a part of it, I'm stoked, so I'm so glad to be on, man.
Well, I mean, I think that's part of what I liked about what you did with Lee is that you were so excited. I'm always excited to do my own show, and I'm always excited if other people invite me on, obviously. And please, if people are listening, please invite me on. I'm happy to go on your podcast. but it's different when you're just starting. It really is, the excitement, the nerves. So I just think it was really cool to hear you do that, and then talk about your life and your experiences and your incredible spiritual experiences. And so I don't know if we'll get into all of your background, but if you just want to introduce
absolutely,
however much you want, or just whatever you want to say.
Well, because it's important, and it all ties in. But with the story I get in with him, I kind of get into my family's history. I had my grandfather was a colonel. He was in the Military Hall of Fame, was in a bunch of wars. So I kind of get into that story, and that's how we kind of tie it in. But my life path, I've hit rock bottom and then fell through the bottom of that. I've been on the strongest drugs known to mankind, running around on the streets, barely an inch of life left in me, and been to prison, all that stuff, and pulled myself out. But a near-death experience was along the way, and I can't help but think that somehow that ties into what came later, because now there's not a want for things, it's like there was a time before and a time after, and the synchronicities have been utterly astounding. Religious experiences, magical experiences, synchronicities one by one, and things are great, it's all the terrible things that I've been through were the things that pushed me to where hopefully I'm going, which is a great place. Every day's a good day. So
I really appreciate that about you, Mike, that you have kind of this like a story from like 0 to like, I don't know, like wherever you're at, like 70, 80, 90, 100, I mean, whatever.
Yeah,
But
I feel great, dude. Like
yeah,
I I don't have a want for things. Like I was a drug addict, like bad, and I was a criminal, like bad. And so there's now, if you've seen the way I live happy. I live out in the sun. You know, every day's an adventure. So even when the days are hard. So
that's the thing. It's like you have to treat it is like that. It's like that. And I've never done drugs. I'm not like, the addiction never struck me in that way. But I think that just in terms of like being happier, living your life and being more like fulfilled, I think that you have to treat every day like it's an adventure, every day like it's a first day almost.
yeah,
And yeah,
absolutely.
that's all you can really do. And but you know what, on my show, especially for the people that listen to my show, this will just give you tons of street cred. Like it will give me street cred, but also the street cred. So everybody will think it's cool. So
Oh, I'm excited.
So Mike, why don't you share? I don't know how you want to do it. If you just want to like start discussing things, but you've
Yeah.
had incredible kind of spiritual experiences. You're doing amazing parapolitical research on Twitter. You have a smaller account right now. Hopefully we'll get you like followers and and just get you out there. But I think that like some of your, especially the Dakini experiences, which is something that
Yes.
I've obviously, I don't really talk about it. I did talk about it on my third episodes, but I'm going to speak on that stuff with you because I said I would in DM, obviously. And I think that there are things that I am okay to say now. And like I wasn't quite sure when I did my original Tantra series, even when I was on Occult Rejects, I was just like, I downplayed my own experiences because I think that you don't want to overemphasize them either, because then people
It's
think
so
that
personal.
exactly. And then that's a huge thing, like the level of respect that you have for it. So, I don't know how much I'm going to share, but I'm definitely going to share stuff. So
Yeah.
if you want to share sort of like your experiences and like the
Well,
specific setting of it.
yeah, definitely. Okay, so if we're talking about magical experiences and if we're talking about this, well, first of all, let me just bring this point out. There's been a mysterious figure in mythology and religion and magical grimoires and anything you can think of that has, heavy UFO things, there's always this feminine encounter, it seems like, when you get to the nitty gritty of the real stuff, right? So Aleister Crowley, the Babylon working, the woman, right? If you, the Phoenicians worshipped a goddess, and they traveled around and they kept it secret. The Vikings and even the Knights Templar, their most mysterious faith was the triple goddess. So you just, in the Catholic mysteries, the Marian mysteries, who's this woman? You see the same color motifs in all cultures, even Quetzalcoatl in Mexico. The same thing, serpentine, feathers, right? Angelic, pink, red, white, the bird, the snake,
Hmm?
the eye. What does it all mean?
Mm-hmm.
And doing my research, and so I've done a little bit of prison time, a little chunk, and if you have an inquisitive mind, you're going to hit the books. And I would go through and I look through art from all different cultures, and I would see this woman staring back at me. Do you get that feeling? You know what I mean? When you go through, like, is that the same woman in that culture, right? And so now we'll go back to my near-death experience. It was when it happened from an overdose, okay? And it was very strong, high grade stuff. And it was, once it's in, once you inject it, there's no taking it out, right? And I pushed the thing down, and I knew, so I opened the car door and I fell out of it. Boom. Luckily, that probably saved me because that forced a commotion, But the fire truck wasn't very far away. Like, luckily, this happened right next to a fire department. But I can't help but feel like I got poured into something. If it's so hard to explain, but like an inky black poured into something, and it was almost like a computer system, like I was booted down, and then immediately a fogginess, a voice, and I can hear the commotion. I can hear the commotion below me, and then all of a sudden it's loud, and I'm back in my body, and then next thing I remember, I'm in the hospital. But if you go back to Aleister Crowley, and once after this happened, this changed everything, right? So as I started digging into things, getting more, trying to figure out all this stuff, eventually I got an apparition in the sky of this eyeball. And I know that sound, everyone's like, oh no, Illuminati. No. It was in a cloud, but it was unmistakably like an eyeball right over me, and the feeling that I was getting. And that was one night. And then it was like, as the research was going on, and I looked into the Babylon workings, and he talks about drinking the bloods of the saints. Do you know what I'm talking about, Jin?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I was reading Liber 49 right before we recorded, and some of Liber Null as well, just to brush up, because like, magician's work is never finished.
Yeah. Well, he's
don't know enough.
And I'm not real clear on it either. I'm not real big on it, but I know that when he's seen this woman astride a great beast, this red woman, drinking the bloods of the saints and the of all the saints and of Jesus's followers, right?
Mm-hmm.
In Crowley fashion, I think he was telling you that this was Mary, you know what I mean? But because she's the middle pillar, she's red, right? I think, and this, maybe I'm getting a little further off course here. Let me stir it back. I felt like when I died, like I got poured into a cup, and almost like, nope, there's something more for you. Push back. It feels like there's a cooperation between all living things. Like we're all related, right? We all come from the stairway to heaven, right? The DNA strand that continues on forever. But I don't know. That was when my heaviest sense of this reality was coming forward, after I read that. And it might have been the next day, it might have been the next couple days, but I had this apparition of a woman in the sky, and I have pictures of it. It was on a shitty phone, but I have pictures of it, and it's pretty crazy. And it looks like she's wearing a crown on her head, and all these clouds are rolling around. And it was out for like an hour. I took a bunch of pictures. And then all of a sudden the clouds start rolling around her neck like a necklace. And it was just like, what are these signs in the sky? Do you know what I mean? And I've seen orbs. I've seen all kinds of orbs ever since my near-death experience. I don't know what to make of it. A lot of the times it will be mentally, when I'm deep in thought or after prayer, like. And so those are my I would say religious experiences. So that's why I wanted to kick it off with that, just so to let it be known that I think there's something way, way deeper. So that when we look at the mythology and you can see these things popping up, I think there's a reality to it all. I truly do.
I mean, as you know, Mike, I am a tantric Buddhist, so we do acknowledge that there's an interconnection between all living beings and non-living beings as well. So we call that karma. And then also we do agree that, I mean, I agree with you, and Buddhism also agrees with you that there is a reality behind our reality. We call the beauty of the reality Maya, and then we call the reality behind Maya, we call that, sometimes we call it Mara, but sometimes Mara can also be the delusion of our perceptions of how we understand the reality behind Maya. Then there's also another reality that maybe is we call it the Mahasmashana, or the ultimate carnal ground of reality. But neither of those three things, people get very confused, because neither of those three things is, even though we call ultimate reality, neither of those three things are really ultimate reality. It's really the synthesis of all three. And that's what you
Right.
talked about with the middle pillar. It's really the synthesis of all three, not just in death, because, well, in the way that I've described it in the past, is death becomes this place of the male deities, like the Ashtabhairavs, like the 8 kind of ferocious time kings. They arise there.
Oh, that's
But
amazing.
then when
Yeah.
you go up to Kether, that is where you'll get like the red Dakini, like the one who is solitary. Now she can also be with her consort, and that's obviously has a slightly different meaning. It's more associated with Pluto, but once she's by herself, she is more associated with Uranus and Aquarius. So you have this kind of like Age of Aquarius liberatory thing, but she's not teal, right? Like she's red. She's
Yeah.
scarlet red. So she wears, interestingly enough, to go along with both two things that you said, she wears diamonds, sky diamonds, so like stars, as her bridal jewelry. And she also wears a crown that is made from Vajra, but it's different than the crowns of the other Buddhas. The other Buddhas will have Buddhas on their crowns. She has nothing on her crown. She wears the 5 crown of the like tantric master, but hers is empty, because she is the Sarva Buddha. So she is the one that is all of them at the same time, completely purified. And there's also an interesting thing, because we were talking about like synthesis, and when you get synthesis, you usually, the idea is that you produce gold. Well, even though she is red, and she is red, but her nature is not rajas. It's not that. It's not lust. It's not the desire to even go higher. It's synthesis, but then it's also synthesis of understanding who she really is. So her real color is gold. So people don't really know that, because they'll see her and she's red, but her real color, her secret color, is gold. So I think that's very interesting as well.
That is the golden thread that connects us all.
That's
That's
right.
amazing. The golden thread that connects us all never corrodes.
It never corrodes, because it is, what is it? It's pressurized metal in a
The
thergic
purest
process.
form.
That's right. And it pierces down through the 3 worlds, through Kether, through all the worlds. It diffuses as light, hits Venus, which is the diamond, and it diffuses in a rainbow. Hod gives us the names. So we name the colors that appear. And then it goes to Yesod, so the Babylon daughter. And then that is what existence appearance is, meaning that when we perceive her, when she appears in the world, that is from the moon. So that's why they said that in 49, because it's not who she is, it's who she's appearing as. That's why
The aspects.
Yes, exactly, you get it.
And that's amazing. So with gold, the thing that I think we're missing a lot. Okay, so I'm pretty good at getting into kind of a trance state of mind, kind of, after, if I can get a moment, I can kind of daze off into a half sleep if I'm in a good state of mind, get some sunshine. And that's where I can kind of almost get a sense of some scrying, right? That's where you can tap into the magic mind. And but what we're missing is monoatomics, right? I think that we're missing out on a whole different thing. I think if we could have monoatomic gold like the alchemists of old, like the Egyptians ate these gold cakes, I think we could actually communicate better. You know what I mean?
No,
Our psychic.
No, you're totally right. I think that that is something that Grub and I sort of talked about too, is like how does the interaction of metals, planetary metals and like other kinds of metals, like ones with more that are more recent, how do they like have this interaction with color and energy and sort of like what does that mean to
100%.
us? So I
So
totally for you with you.
yeah, so like that's amazing. So maybe red has something to do with iron. So I know in geology, right? Like, I'm a rock hunter. I love collecting stones. I love digging in riverbeds. I love looking for crystals, right? And green is copper, right? If there's copper incursions, you'll see green.
Hmm?
If there's iron incursions, you see red. And we all know that you need a certain amount of iron in your body, right? It's
Hmm?
associated with blood.
Hmm?
And that's another tie-in, I believe. I mean, our blood, there's a communication there. It's its own source of energy and power. And I think that is another association with the Scarlet Woman.
I agree with you. She always holds a skull cup and it's filled with the five nectars, the five offering nectars. So one of those things is starfire, as Lee is fond of calling it, and or menstrual blood is another way to describe it. And so it is always filled with one, like it's filled with five things, but that is the main sort of not the main thing, but it's a primary ingredient, we'll say. And I actually wrote down because I remembered you specifically saying that you love crystals and that you go up to the
Yeah.
mountain to look for them a lot. And I thought, well, that's really interesting because where I live on a mountain, and I often go obsidian hunting, and because you can
Nice.
wildcraft them where I live, like the huge chunks of that. So I thought that was really interesting when you were on Lee's show that you talked about that and that you brought it up now and that I wrote down about it because I thought that's really
The stones probably brought us together. The stones, okay, so I'm glad we're here now because so I listened to a podcast that you did about the Thai magic with Lee.
oh yes, yes, yes.
Dude, Krishna Barbie Buddha. Is that did I say that right?
We call it they call it Kumintong.
Is he the one that comes out of a rock?
Oh, so there is one that comes out of a rock, but so in the Kumintong episode, I don't remember specifically if we talked about. I mean, we must have as one that comes out of a rock, but there's a lot of myths
Yeah.
about it, so I can't remember specifically. But I kind of, I mean, I can explain a Kumintong and how they have like layered gold, and that a lot of the Thai monks, especially in Thai Buddhism, they layer gold onto statues. It's very common, and in corpses as well. They will layer gold leaf onto like ascended master, not ascended. I mean, that's a more theosophical term, but I'm using it in a more Buddhist way, like on people who have passed on, but they're like accomplished masters. So they will put
Yeah.
on their corpse, they will put layers of gold foil, gold leaf.
Yeah, it's just crazy because this coming out of a rock thing. Have you listened to the Greenstone episode with Lee? He had this author on who, with Andrew Collins, went on this adventure to find this stone, the Greenstone, from Mary Queen of Scots, and the short sword, and they just go on this insane adventure with all these psychic things going on, and people are calling his magazine saying, "Hey, are you guys looking for? I think you guys are looking for a sword. I had a dream. I think it's going to be here." And they're like, "What the hell is going on?" And they eventually find this sword in this old wall, right? It's a crazy story. You'll have to watch it, but the story is so tied to so many. I keep seeing this story pop up over and over again. It's like Mithras. Mithras just one day out of a rock, this dude is hit in the head with this spiritual journey. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, and I don't know. It fascinated me so much.
Well,
Fascinates me to no end.
no, I love that you bring this up, but I want to go back a little bit. So I want to go back to your experience, near death experience, just briefly. And I
Yeah.
just want to So when you said the red fire truck, I immediately found that interesting from like a Kabbalistic perspective. I said, okay, that's the red pillar. That's the, that fire. That's like a sign. That's like, it's such a sign. If you know, and there's a ladder on it and it's water. Water is the feminine element, but then there's also like the martial
Holy shit.
element of the fire that is like earthly, because, a vehicle is very earth. It's very Taurus. It has that element like a truck. So it just, there's something very earth and water
That's
about
amazing.
that. And that is kind of the idea, right? Like she quells, like she is not the Babylon daughter. So I just will say, like, Crowley obviously took it in his like sicko way, and he had to invert everything that he saw. And
Inverted it.
maybe he did that on purpose. Maybe he did that on purpose because
Yeah.
they all knew. Maybe they did not have the experience that they wrote down, but maybe he wrote it in a coded like cipher, because there
Well,
are.
he did that. He was a jokester.
Yeah, I know.
And I think so. Yeah, just to go back to that little quick point there. So pour it into the cup. If you look, there's even ancient Egyptian stuff with like Hathor with her heads and like these streams running into her head. Like, I don't know. It seems like it's the holy guardian angel for all of us. Do you know what I mean? I think that was another thing that he was kind of saying in slight, saying it but not saying it, like saying it like everybody's got their own holy guardian angel, when it's the holy guardian angel. Do you know what I mean?
No, I
But
totally. I'll say something after. I'll let you go, but I have something that'll blow your mind, I think.
but and so magic, there's a reality to sacrifice. Okay.
Mhm.
There's 100%. You can't tell me there's not. You can pick up a textbook, look at any religion. They all, sacrifice is a part of it, right?
All is part of it, yes.
But if you go with the 7 virtues, and you go on the godly path, you want to go on the right path, I believe that the sacrifices have been made. That's kind of the vision. All these people died so that, it wasn't just Rome, bread, and circus everywhere. There's horrible things that have happened with the Catholic Church, but what people don't realize is before the Catholic Church, there was the Celtic Church of Christ, and there was the Cathars. These were white magicians. So there's way more magic in Christianity than people think. The Catholics came in and jacked it. The Holy Roman Empire obfuscated it. But what we don't know about the Cathars and the Celtic Church of Christ is that they were magicians. They were miracle makers. And I think that's kind of like a revelation I had with that image, was if you want to do the godly path, the sacrifices have been made. But he flips it around, and like this Scarlet Woman is drinking the blood of the saints and the martyrs of Jesus Christ. So that's kind of,
I think that it's interesting because you can understand it in like an allegorical way. Like, yes, the Buddhist goddesses obviously drink the skull cup full of nectar, full of starfire. Yes, in India, in like in Indian tantra, they do make blood sacrifice to them. It's called Pashubali, usually a goat, and et cetera, et cetera. But and I agree that there is a component of sacrifice, but like with Christianity, in Buddhism, we do not offer bloods. Well, some kinds of Christians actually do, so that we shouldn't say that, or I shouldn't say that. But
yeah, right. There's all types.
There's all types, but in general, I do agree with you that if you're walking the right-hand path, you do not need to offer blood sacrifice, because it's totally unnecessary, because it is already been done. And and I think also that's what Crowley was actually also saying, is that the blood of the saints and the blood of the martyrs, well, that is that's part of like a sacramental prayer to Jesus when you're doing the meditations on the Passion. And Saint Loyola had like this long thing on the meditation of it's very gory, right? Like it's much more tantric sort of in its form, because it's like very like, oh, you're meditating on the wounds, you're meditating on the actions of the whip and the flaying and all of that. So you're really meditating on the very wrathful, what we would say is very wrathful actions. And so she does do that, but she is also non-dual. So that is I find that really interesting because it's like modern magicians will say, okay, non-dual means you're amoral, but that's not what non-dual really means. Non-dual means that you can recognize things beyond their transgressive nature. It means that you've moved past it. Like she has moved past the transgressivity. She's not stuck in being transgressive. She might have done that in the past, but she's like, it's like she's onward and upward. That's her. She's looking upwards towards Heather. She's not stagnant and stuck in the transgressive nature or the transgressive path. So I find that really interesting. But then also I want to say, I'm gonna let you speak, I promise. And
No, you're good, brother. You're good. Hey, I'm like I said, I came on here to learn too, because I will have to say I'm very lacking, but I'm fully interested. So it was definitely it was a moment before I got pushed back into the body. And then was strangely enough, actually, when I get pushed back into the body, and I remember, what did you take? What did you take? And then I just woke up in the hospital. But it was, and that's why I love that you find the thing with the fire truck, is because it seems like everything, there's been so many moments that after that moment, like everything in the path of my life like has a symbol to it. Like it's insane. Like, you know what I mean? Like, um, I needed a job close by one day, you know what I mean? I'm like, God, please help me find a job. I literally open my eyes and I'm looking at a roofing company called Angle Roofing, but I thought it said Angel Roofing. And I'm like, what? Like literally, like it's like, and I just bring that as an example, one thing after another, like, here's the way. Everything is a symbol. I keep having these dogs run up in my life.
Oh, really? This is very interesting.
Every dog I get just is showed up in my life, and I have to, you know what I mean? My heart cannot let it just be homeless or go to the pound. And as I was building myself back together, you know what I mean? This dog showed up, and it was this pit bull named Moonlight. Little Moonlight. And just like, I cannot take care of a dog right now. I'm not even taking care of myself. But these little dogs, there's something angelic about them. You know what I mean? They show up one by one. They're all different sizes.
I actually find the dog thing very interesting because a lot of people know that I'm very fascinated by the Mahakala, or the Time King, and also a name of Shiva, but not when Shiva is sleeping. Shiva when he's awake, when he's in the world. So his retinue is surrounded by dogs. Like, that's the idea, is that he's surrounded by dogs. And so when you have the, not maybe the heavenly near death experience, but maybe the inverse, like sometimes people have the hell experience when they have the near death experience. So when you fall into the abyss, kind of, you hear dogs barking. So that's one sort of idea. But then the dogs are supposed to remind you that it's not, it's just illusory. It's part of the moment.
That's, sometimes I've had dreams where I had this dog when I was growing up, little Bo, and we were tight. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is my guy. And he's been gone for years, but I swear, like, sometimes in my dreams, like, I can still hear his little barking. And like, it as crazy as that sounds, like, I don't know. Sorry.
No, that's, I
I'm
think
blown away.
no, I think I personally, I mean, nothing's weird to me, frankly, Mike. I mean, that's sort of my show, is that it's all like, I've had many of these, not all the same, but many of the experiences I've had. And so when I discuss it with other people, it's not that I'm not trying to withhold my own experiences, but I see them and I try and explain them maybe more in like a textual way. But I agree with you that it's a sign. Like, for me, all things are signs. There's no coincidences in the world. I don't really believe.
The dogs are so incredibly, if you get really tight with dogs and you've got a whole pack of them, you have a sixth sense. Do you know what I mean? Like, they're tuned into shit that you would never be tuned into. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, this is
And
very interesting.
and they do the craziest things. Sometimes they act so out of place, and that's when I know something's acting through these dogs. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and I don't know. I have this little thing in the backyard. It's kind of like my magical talisman. It's my place on earth that I am rooted into in a very deep way, right? Okay.
Right.
I'm lucky enough to live in the house that my grandfather and my mother was raised in, right? My grandpa left us this house and I'm here now. So I literally grew up in this house pretty much. You know what I mean? My dad wasn't really around, so I was at grandpa's house all the time. And he made this little circle in the backyard, right? And it just so happens that it's perfectly aligned to north, south, east, west, right? There's a cherry tree that we used to eat the cherry pies when we'd harvest the cherries from when we were kids, right? Now that tree has died, but the stump lays there. Okay. Now, when I was hunting for rocks in the mountains, right, I found this crazy ass looking agatized river rock. It looks exactly like a skull. Like it's my crystal skull, like straight up. If you look at it from one side, you think it's a skull. So strange, this rock, and it's so heavy, and it feels like there's a cavity inside of it. And when I pulled it out of the river, it broke my pinky. And I was so pissed off, I almost threw it back. But I was like, God damn it, dude, I broke my pinky with this thing. I'm gonna take it home. So it's almost like, my crystal skull connected to my bones. It broke my bone. You know what I mean? It's like
Mm-hmm.
all of these things, okay? So all of a sudden this talisman starts to be created just haphazardly because I have all these rocks, right? And two trees start growing out of the back of it, like two pillars, right? It's a pretty cool looking divination circle, whatever you want to call it. It's just a beautiful little circle with this crystal skull sitting atop a tree that is dead now, right? So I have like a deep connection to this thing. My damn dogs will throw stones at that thing. My dogs will go over there and pose at it. You know what I mean? And like I've pulled real information out of what they've done. And it's hard to explain, but I have a color. It's like a color wheel in the front. I have the earth tones in the back, right? I have a black pillar and a red pillar, and then I put my white stones with a hole in it. And I've gotten icicles off of that tree. Crazy, just it seems like I don't know. But the dogs have done things to that. They'll throw out a color at me. They'll grab a stone and go over and throw it at it. Like it's there's definitely something to it, and I've definitely got myself a little magical circle that I can kind of figure things out at.
Well, that is really cool. I think that I have something for you that you'll find interesting about your pinky is that there is this idea called Hongxian in Chinese, which is the red thread of fate. And it is said to be in your pinky and it goes into your heart. It's like a meridian that travels from your pinky into your heart. So it's like a marriage vow. And we are said to be connected to our sort of like our karmic partners throughout our different reincarnations, whatever that is. And so the person that you marry, they might not be the person you stay with forever. I'm not saying that. I'm just but it's people we are connected to romantically, and they're connected to with an invisible red string to our pinky, and we are connected to them through their pinky. So that is it's a red string of fate. So I think that's really awesome with the story with the crystal skull. And also I think I the man who is called Yu Lao, which is old moon, or yeah, old moon. So sometimes that can be understood as moonlight. He has a like a little helper, a little child helper with him, and his name is Moonlight, the little boy. So I thought that was really interesting going off of the dog.
Yeah, and this dog showed up when I was in the depths, dude. Like I was, you know what I mean? Like I was fixing to either fall all the way off, you know what I mean? You just get wore out when you live that kind of life, you know. But that's amazing, man. That red thread thing, you know. So other magical experiences I get. So I play music, I play guitar, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I've always kind of heard music in my head. You know what I mean? As a little kid, I lived in my head. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Then I ended up going to prison where you really got to live in your head. And when I feel the presence of something, and like I'll see orbs and stuff like that, I've heard music in my head. And and that's another thing that has pulled me through. You know what I mean? I've got to, because I don't want to, you know, I'm pretty decent, and it's a talent that I neglected for a long time, but I get my heart starts like pumping like an engine, dude. Like when you hear music that you know it's not coming from you, there's a connection with the heart. It's so bizarre. And when you said the pinky, so the pinky that broke was my guitar playing pinky, which was really disturbing to me at first. You know what I mean? I'm like, I'm just starting to play again,
Mm-hmm.
but it's healed now.
The music thing's very interesting also because like the dakinis, so obviously we're talking about one, but there are she appears as many, but she really is one. So so also to bring it back around to your copper, to the when you're talking about greens and copper, that's very interesting, and we have to talk about that too. But I think that there are many dakinis, and they often are surrounded by like there's 5 elements or maybe 8 elements that they typically are associated with. Music is one of them. Flowers are another. Fragrance is another. Taste is another, like being able to taste like the sweet almonds or like apples or cherries. That's obviously another thing. Any it's sweet. It's something sweet, but usually like a red fruit, a pomegranate, whatever. And the honey.
Pomegranates.
Exactly. And so that's one of the things is, so I think that's also interesting. But then the music is really important because there is this idea in tantra that is not well known, even in like the more the telemic or theosophical sort of like variations of magic, because I think that they didn't really penetrate those like deeper layers. But the idea is that you kind of go from form into formlessness with that practice, with the Vajrayogini practice, the red woman practice. But then there's also this idea that when she goes upwards, she changes from form into a syllable, so a sound. And the syllables are found in words, but it's really a magic syllable, like a syllable of creation. So you don't really say it like just a gross word. You kind of have to build to the point of power and purification, so that when you do say it, it has like meaning to change reality, sort of, or at least
Yeah,
change your
the
perception.
timing.
Exactly.
Timing. Yep. And that's something that I've heard you mention a lot that nobody seems to, well, not, I wouldn't say nobody, but time. Time is an aspect of reality or not reality, if you like that, is definitely a part of magic is timing, just like in
Mm-hmm.
music.
Mm-hmm.
Timing.
Mm-hmm. Well, it all works together. So it's very musical, right? Like magic really is very musical and also very mathematical. It works, it has to work in a grammar. It has to have like a structure, a language. Of course it can be free flowing, but it has to have some kind of coherency, which is the pink. So whenever you hear me talk about pink on Twitter or anywhere else, pink is the sound of coherence in discoherence. So it is the production of the chord in like the sort of reverberation. So I
Right.
think that's really interesting. And then the green, I'm not a music guy, okay, Mike? So like a lot of the people in my circle are very musically oriented. So I'm trying not to sound like a total retard, okay? But I'm not that musical. But I will say I do understand it in a visualization sort of way. Like I can visualize it in my mind.
Oh,
I can see the pink emerge. I can see the chords, like I understand there's a thing there I can sort of get.
oh, of course you can get it. You've got ears. That's the thing about music is it can animate.
That's a good word. I
People
like
can
it.
dance. It animates you. You don't
Mhm,
know
mhm,
why, but there's a
mhm.
way. And then there's a right way to do it. You can't dance hip hop to the classical, right? But
Right. That's
that's what's so beautiful about it is it animates, it electrifies everything.
mhm.
You
That's a
know,
great word, the animation, because the Dakinis are known to dance. That is their thing. They do the carnal ground dance, the cemetery dance. So they are always depicted in a dancing position, a dancing posture, because they're around them is filled with words of magic, words of music. So they kind of sway to the rhythm. That's the whole idea. And then the music can be channeled into a word, and then that is magic, basically. When you figure out
yeah,
what that music is saying, like the word that you can use to describe
yeah,
it, yeah, that's magic.
because that is magic. Because it's so hard to define what is the animating spirit of the thing.
Hmm.
It's the magic. It's the thing that everybody understands but nobody can put their finger on, and that's magic, people. I love it.
That's creation magic. That's like the pink magic and maybe the green magic as well. Although you could also say green magic is also the naming of things, but that's only emerald. So it is important to note that in Tantra, we do have multiple qualities of green. There are really three qualities. So there's like blue green, there is green green, like an emerald green, and then there's a jade green. So when you were talking about the copper, I find that very interesting because if you heard, I don't know what episode I did on this, but whenever I've talked about Guru Rinpoche or the main, probably the primary Buddha of Tantric Buddhism. So he's an 8th century master of the kilas, the dual wielding pegs, like the magic knives, kind of. So he is said to live in a copper mountain, a copper pyramid, surrounded by dakinis of multiple colors. So all the 5 colors, Buddhism has the 5 magic colors: blue, yellow, red, green, and white.
Yeah.
And so he's surrounded by them like a flower, but he lives in this copper pyramid that gets struck by lightning. And then through the pyramid, it kind of expands outwards into these 4 pillars, like the watchtowers, kind of. And then it disperses the energy into the whole world. It disperses this kind of it's not
That's
energy,
amazing.
like pristine mind. So it's like the purification of your mind, your consciousness into the world.
That's lightning perfect mind. Holy shit. See, that's
Yeah,
why I
that's
love
the
that
Gnostic
stuff.
story. That's the Gnostic story. That's what they were saying.
Yeah, yeah,
They were
yeah.
saying it's all the same.
That's incredible. Yeah, that's what I love. Yeah. And nobody's doing this. Archaeologists, anthropologists, it's a cardinal sin to do what we just did. But it needs to be done. Self similarity, showing these cultures connection like that. Like, you know, Nikola Tesla. I'm in Colorado Springs, by the way, everybody. And this is a place that Nikola Tesla came to do free electricity experiments, right? And there's something about the elevation here in the mountains, and literally we have some really insane lightning strikes and dispersions in the ground, and he was able to pull it up out of the ground. Kind of strange that they decided to put 6 military bases here, but that's besides the point. But
I actually found that very interesting as well because obviously you have the hexagram. That is her symbol. If we're talking about the red Dakini, that's
yeah,
flying in the air. Her symbol is the hexagram. Now, people misunderstand that and think, oh, it's like the symbol of Babylon or whatever. And like, okay, maybe it is. But it's also her symbol. And the number isn't 6 because there's a secret meaning. And the secret meaning is she is really the 7th. So she really is the upward rising lightning from the ground going
Yeah.
upward. That's really her.
Yeah, because lightning strikes upward. It looks like it happens so quick, but when you look at it, it actually does come from the ground up.
That's right. And I
And
didn't know.
she's
Very
the
much
hidden
so.
one. She is the hidden one.
That's right. That's 100% right.
And that's another thing that's interesting too, is it's like there's a charge to her, to this energy, this divine feminine, this scarlet woman,
Mhm.
because it's can be alarming. It can scare you.
Mhm.
You're not to know, is this a demon? Is this? But then you come to realize that this is mother. That there can't just be male gods.
Mhm.
If there is a God that who gave birth to life, who gave birth to us.
And how it has to be a woman. It's the only way to resolve the paradox, right? Like that's how we think of it in Buddhism. Like there are two. So there are two. There's male and female, right? There's wisdom and method. But it's really the animating force, like to borrow what your great word, that is, it has to be feminine. It doesn't really work because the male is the pristine consciousness. He is the thunder and the lightning that just appears in the world as turquoise. He's not really in the world. God is kind of like in his cave of treasures. Okay, let's use the Platonic kind of idea, and that is exactly how it's described in Buddhism. Like when they are in the primordial time, he's dark blue, so he's the color of sapphires. So they're in this cave. The roof of the cave is turquoise gems, gold with gold flecks. Okay, the sand around them is diamonds, and they're in this cave in a copper mountain, and he is dark blue and she is white. So does not have any qualities. She's quality less. So she takes on his qualities. So if you put dark blue and white together, what do you get? Turquoise. That is the color that all the medieval Kabbalists like Ramak described as like this block of ice from Lake Baikal in Russia. And it's like the light that comes through the block of ice appears like a turquoise stone, but it's really light. So it doesn't really have a color. It's really white or clear. But we assign it color, and that's what God is. God is the kind of the
reflections.
Yeah, exactly. You get it. I mean, you get it.
Yeah.
I'm just speaking for people who aren't.
No, like you're speaking for me. So like, you know what? My granddad, he brought a Buddha home from the wars. I'll send you a picture of it. I thought he brought it from Korea, but I asked my mom, and I guess he brought it from Vietnam.
Oh, very
but
cool.
It's looking at it right now, but he's got like a pregnant belly with like a moon imprint in his belly for his belly button, kind of.
Buddhism has a lot of astrotheology, very understudied subject, actually. And also, I wanted to bring this up, and I don't know if you'll find this interesting, but are you familiar with the Twin Sisters Peaks, Mike?
I'm not.
Okay, so they're like this Twin Sisters Peaks. I don't know where it is. It's in Colorado somewhere. I know that's very vague. Anyways, they have a Buddhist monastery, a famous one, relatively famous, and they offer the monks recognize the Twin Sisters Mountain as sort of this place of the dakinis. And in fact, they even do a monthly torma offering on the new moon to the mountain. Yeah. And
where is this? In Colorado? Do you know the...
I'll look it up. And
okay.
I'll figure it out. So you talk about something while I look it up, and then we can.
Well, that's the thing is this sacred mountains. We've got quite a few of them here, and if you ever want to connect with nature, if you ever want to have a download, if it's ever possible, it's going to happen along the way or at the top of that mountain. So if all you people out there, if you're in Colorado, don't stay in the cities. You've got endless mysteries to explore.
Okay. So this is kind of blowing my mind. But so the Twin Sisters Peak is in the Rocky Mountain National Park, which is off of Lily Lake. And
no, I know where.
I'm sure you know where it is.
I didn't realize there was a thing up there. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's on the Colorado Highway 7. That's really interesting to me. And the elevation is 707 feet. I'm not making it up.
Nice.
It's
Oh, I'm
like
sure.
and it says the diameter, like the circumference of the mountain, is 7 miles, and the highest elevation on the mountain is 11,000 feet. So,
Nice.
I mean, I'm not making it up. Those are the numbers that it's given.
Oh, I know you're not. We have, and that's what really makes you, when you go into some of these mountains out here, you'll find at the top polygonal blocked marbled walls that look ancient. And I know that sounds crazy, but there is definitely starting to become showing evidence of civilization that goes into the past in some of these places. But some of these mountains are just, you got to be shitting me. Like they'll all end at like, this one's 8,000 feet, period. You know what I mean? Not 8,001 flat top mountain. You know what I mean? Or those mountains, which I'm definitely going to go see. You know, in Rocky Mountain National Forest, there's a lot of Bigfoot sightings, UFOs, missing 411.
Okay, get into this. Talk a little bit about missing 411 because I'm not super familiar with this idea.
Okay, so this is very important to know. And this is proof, I believe, of demons, of demonic things that live in forests, actual supernatural things that happen. And if you just stumble into some certain places, if you're loud, if you snap twigs, if you don't ask for permission first, if you're alone, you might not walk out of that place. And that is a fact. We have countless examples of people going missing, and it usually is accompanied by granite. However strange that might sound, large outcrops of granite, people end up missing on those trails all the time. And there's documentaries called Missing 411, and the guy has done really important research because a lot of these national forests in America, people go missing, and it'll be really strange circumstances, like 3 guys are walking down the trail, but the guy in the back, all of a sudden the 2 guys in the front realize that the guy in the back has been gone. He hasn't said anything, and then even dogs can't find a trace of him. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, like
very mysterious.
Like they got absorbed into the rock or
yeah,
yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Well,
like nature just took them back. So
well,
it's pretty bizarre. Yeah, the mountains are always, in all legend and all lore, it's get to the top of the mountain, Moses, right?
Yep, right.
Everything.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's just repeat. But there is something, and I think it is something to do with. I mean, we don't know anything about our upper atmosphere, period. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But we know that it's full of electricity, it's full of plasma. And it's kind of like, the Dead Sea. Why is the Dead Sea such a good place to be? They say it's the length of light, the elevation. It's a particular light beam that you get there that's supposed to mean something. You know what I mean? So when you're in the mountain, you get to, on the whole journey, be in a different elevation the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
You get a bend of light. Do you know what I mean? You get a different kind the whole way, and then you get it back. And like you get a sunburn like a motherfucker up here. Sorry, didn't mean to swear.
No, you can swear, Mike. It's totally fine. This is
Okay.
my show. No big deal.
But yeah, you get sunburn like hell out here because we're a mile above sea level out here on the Front Range. So, but it's also good, man. It's really, you want that bright light.
I agree with you. Well, she is kind of light. Like that is kind of what she is, right? In one way of thinking. at least partly. And I think also the mountain is like a perennial, like you said, it exists in all cultures, all mythologies. It's so important. Moses climbs Mount Zion.
Yep.
He, the lightning strikes him. He goes up to heaven. Some people say, if you read like the Pseudo Solomon books, he becomes a Metatron. So that is one idea, is that you can also travel up and meet God. And then the idea of the plasma is really interesting, because if you understand like the Time Kings, like I said when we started recording, like I would put that at Dath. So one of the Time Kings, who's Akasha Bhairava, so the void or plasma Time King, he is literally ball lightning, plasmic, like a plasmoid. So that is really interesting. And like associated with Jupiter as well. Not the planet necessarily, but more in like a greater way. But that is very interesting though, because the Jupiter is the great ocean, the great like kind of void ocean, if you want to say it like that.
Yeah.
And then also for her, she has to climb the mountain. That is the idea, even in Buddhism. Like, yes, it's a Gnostic story. She like hears the cries of something, probably us. She falls down. They're making love. She falls down. She looks over her shoulder. She falls down. Then she has to climb back up, because that's her kind of like ontological goal, is to like reunite with God, right? Reunite with the Godhead. Maybe not God, but God, the Godhead. And so she has to also climb the mountain, both in a metaphorical as well as in a literal sense. Like that is part of the process of, that's why Tibet is considered to be such a sacred place, because it's all mountainous. So your thurgic process is considered to be easier, maybe more permeable in those places of higher elevation where you're physically on a mountain and you're climbing closer, although we don't necessarily want to end at God. We want to go higher to the Godhead. But it's the same idea. It's like and even in Hinduism, even normie Hinduism, like Shiva is Mount Kailash. Like he isn't the physical Mount Kailash, but yes, in kind of a way he is. And that's what the Shiva Lingam, like the worship of the black Shiva stones are. That is the same idea. It's kind of pouring the milk or the water on the mountain. It's kind of like dousing the mountain. So
the magnetic.
Calm. Right, exactly.
Have you seen those pictures of the magnetic toroidal field coming through the core of the earth, and it looks like an apple, right?
Yes. So
it's like when you talk about the mountain like that, and it seems like that's the invisible force too. That is almost a part of the golden ratio of the way life's playing out, is through that world. Like, and things go up and down, just like you were talking about, like the primordial mound almost. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. That's the idea, is that she climbs up, but then she can also choose to come back down. She can choose to stay at Kether and then climb or fall back down. She doesn't have to go higher. It depends on what has happened to her along the way. And so I'm saying her, but it's also a metaphor for us, right? Like what has happened to us? Do we choose to go higher, or do we choose to like descend? Descent is not necessarily a negative, but it's also shouldn't be our goal. And that is my thing with like the more post-war, like Babylon working magicians. They like to keep her in low consciousness. They like to keep her in this kind of trapped state. She's not really form. She's outside of form, but she's in form to help us figure out what is the idea is that she tell us the words so we can liberate hidden light from the world, so it reunites with God. And if you want to say God or the Godhead, so it goes back upwards. So she's meant to go back upwards. But in the toroidal field that you reference, the whole idea is it's kind of like it goes upwards, like climbing a mountain, but then there's like a volcanic cone sort of thing, and it pulls the energy in back down through the center of the earth, through the axis. I'm sure you know this. But
the world tree.
Exactly. And it's all a world tree. And that is the thing, that we're all looking at the same thing. That's what I've really realized. We're all looking at the same thing. We're describing it like differently. It's dependent on our context, dependent on our like background, our mythology, like knowledge, our sort of religious experiences, because you can use Christianity, like you can use Catholicism to describe everything that I'm talking about it just doesn't have necessarily the most positive of connotations always. But if you're really like in it,
Well,
you
that's for people. That's for people to be scared. But we've been teamed up so hard. You know, it's part of a social conditioning. Is this team mentality? There's one person. There's one people.
I agree.
There's one reality we're in, and there's really only one mind.
Yeah, I agree. Agreed.
There's all is mind.
Mm-hmm.
And so people get really weird. Oh, don't you say you're a Christian, but you're talking about Buddhism. You say this, you're doing that. And they fail to realize the connection of it all. That it is all connected.
Yeah, we're all connected. Everything is way more connected. I actually found that very profound. I'm not trying to bring up your stint in jail or prison. I'm sorry,
It's
Mike. I don't call
it's
it,
a part of the
but
story. It's a part of the story.
yeah, 100%. And that's what I liked about you, is that you were really like honest and cool about your story. You weren't like, you didn't exaggerate it, and you like just laid it out.
And
And
I'll get into it a little bit with that. So like there's a mental conditioning that the prisoners will put you through, and you'll put yourself through, and then you'll learn the conditioning and you'll pass it on to the new guys, right? And it's all macro micro. Like when you go to kind of a hardcore prison, you can't even talk to people outside your race. Like it's get down or sit down. Like and then after years of living like that, it becomes a programming in your head. So for me to come out and me not buying any of that bullshit to begin with, you know what I mean? But coming out, you kind of have to reset, and it helps you to kind of realize these social dynamics, this team mentality, and it's all a facade, and it's something to be dropped. You know what I mean?
I agree with you, Mike, and that's what I found really profound about your series, is that you did talk about this. What is ideology? Ideology is just bullshit, really. It's just like this thin layer of nothing that we put on. We name things, and like race is one of those ideologies, and it is like there is a reality to race, but then there's also like so much bullshit on top of it that it becomes meaningless. It becomes almost like this just division. It like an unnecessary division, like an unnecessary marker between us.
Yeah,
But
actually, it splits just like the hemispheres of the brain. They want us in one or the other because magic comes from balance, right?
yes,
Power comes from balance.
mm-hmm.
And so they figure out exactly how to split the line, how to put each people into a team. Never shall the two meet.
Exactly.
And they literally use that color magic, like you said, the blue and the red.
And the funny thing is the color magic should be something that we as like normal people, or like maybe not normal, but like people outside of that sort of system, that's a tool for us. That's a tool from God. That's a tool from her. That's like that's our wisdom, right? Like we are supposed to practice the wisdom sciences, and so we are able to use those magic. It's not to be used against us, and that is the problem. And also something I heard you say with Lee that I found very profound, and something that I've sort of tried to talk about on my own, is this idea of music and movies being these kinds of like living spells, really, like very divisional, and I don't watch any kind of like, I don't watch Marvel. I never have. I don't watch like Netflix. I never have. I've always remained very pure in a certain way, because I recognize it, and like the colors, especially for me in my like this background and my Kabbalah background, it stands out way too much. Like I almost can't watch it. It's actually like difficult.
I'm so glad that we got here, because I was thinking about this is so important. Because story is everything, and I think we have a common show that we like. Did you like Dragon Ball Z, right?
Of course.
See, now we had something that we could hold on to, because that story is the story that we should be telling. Goku was good just because he was good. and he never backed down.
Mm-hmm.
And he was the main character. Like, so Netflix, every story that you'll see now will be like Friends, right? Nobody's really a main character anymore. There's no heroes. And if there is a hero, he's weak. And he gets sucked into the story. He doesn't do it because it's the right thing to do, right? So he's haphazardly, and he needs this big team of people to help complete the thing. We've been told that story for like 20 years.
Yeah, that's an amazing point. I totally agree. The anti-hero is the direct inverse to the hero. But then in the 80s, we kind of got this kind of like mix, like exactly like what you're saying, like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It's about the team.
Yeah.
It's about like the team and the colors of the team, and everybody has to work together and sort of.
Yeah, they can't do it on their own.
Yeah, exactly. And then in the 90s, we kind of got these more, like, you're right, like the story became so much more important. Like, I'm thinking of the X-Men because they just revived that cartoon again. Like when I was a kid, they played the first X-Men, the original X-Men animation, and that was more about the story because the characters were like, yes, like important, but not really. It was more about the storyline.
Yeah, any one of them could have been dropped off.
Yes, exactly. They didn't really matter as who they were. They could have written in anyone. They could have had Archangel. They could have had Nightcrawler. I mean, it's all interchangeable, right?
Yeah, and they're never all powerful.
That's right.
They're never righteous like Goku. Like Goku rose to the challenge no matter what. Even through death, he reached through to his family. Do you know what I mean? Like, we don't get told stories like that anymore. We never do.
Well, it is interesting that you bring up DBZ or Dragon Ball Z because, I mean, I don't know if you know this, Mike, but my Twitter handle is Wukong Reborn. So it's a reference to the Monkey King, the Journey to the West story. Dragon Ball Z is based on the Journey to the West story. Goku is like the analog to the Monkey King. So
Nice.
Instantly, I like that you brought it up, of course.
Oh, yeah.
But it's a really interesting parable who the Monkey King is because he is a trickster. He's not a pure hero in the sense of like some hero. He's not like a Arthur Avalon who's like human and flawed, but like ultimately good in his own way. But he is also he has the Monkey King has a divine directive. He is literally told by the female divinity, by Guan Yin, that he must accompany the Buddha to India to retrieve the sutras and to protect them from the demons that will come and try and eat the Buddha. That's how the story goes. So the idea is like he might not have the purest of intentions, but through his journey, through his theurgic kind of like exercise, his penance, he redeems himself and is able to become a Buddha himself. That's the whole parable of that story. And that is very much like Dragon Ball Z, obviously, is that Goku's always good. But the other thing
Vegeta.
That's right. And
it's Vegeta.
That's right. Exactly. You knew it. So like it's like
the
mirror, it's like the mirroring that happens in that show. The other characters are just sort of reflections of Goku. They're not necessarily full characters, but they are, of course they are, but they also are mirror images in a way.
I love it. I love the story of it. I knew there has to be so much good mythology and actual connection with the story. You know what I mean?
Journey to the West was like a huge thing for me growing up. Like it was like my story. Like, you know, everybody has their story, I guess, or their narrative or their comic or their video game. The Journey to the West was my story. And because I liked him, because he was a magician, the Monkey King, and he learns magic, 72 kinds of magic and 81 kinds of spells. So basically he's kind of a naughty boy, but then he's like a good boy. Interestingly, and I'll bring this around, is that so in one of the stories, he was put underneath a mountain for however many years, 108 years or 1,008 years, depending on interpretation. But the Buddha put him under the mountain because he kept disrupting heaven. So there's this whole thing to circle back to the mountain, and then he has to be kind of liberated from the density, the densest of stone, the densest of rock, the granite, you could say, and the iron chains. That's a very important idea also in his story, is that
Whoa.
he's bound with iron chains. So
Do you know about Tahuti? Like Thoth and Hermes, like that sounds sharp. And Enki, the trickster, right? And so they put Enki in the underworld. He got put in the underworld in chains. Did you know that?
So I have heard Robbie talk about this. I don't know if we talked about it when I had him on the show, but he's talked about it maybe on Occult Rejects or with Lee. So I am familiar with the concept, but it's not my particular like mythology that I know really well. But what I will say about that is Buddhism in particular does really focus on Hod. Like that is it's a very important sphere for Buddhism. So you have this idea of like Tahuti or Tahuti's path and Thoth being very important to the whole story of Buddhism. Like that is sort of like that orange green sphere is the way we get out, is the where we sort of like need to aim for, and then we can use the arrow of speech and sort of lightning strike back up. That's kind of the idea. So
It's like there's always, it's like Nimwa and Enki, right? It's like there's always the feminine or Mary and Christ, right? It's amazing. It's like no matter what culture, you can almost find the masculine and the feminine, the divine feminine calling to man for a higher calling. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the similarities are utterly astounding.
It is honestly incredible. It's incredible. I mean, the Marian story, like, yes, she's not obviously the same in exactly as the Buddhist one, because the tantric goddess is obviously red, and she has like an element of sensuality. She's naked. She's on the carnal ground. She has fangs. She drinks blood. But if you understand it from a Buddhist perspective, Mary, the Mother of Mercy, is almost identical, and many Buddhists believe this too. It's not just me saying it, but they believe that Tara, so green Tara of Chesed, she would be the equivalent of Mary. So you always have this merciful, benevolent figure. Like it's a very Isis figure. Like that's what Tara is.
Yeah.
Isis
and Osiris.
That's
Absolutely.
right. And in that, even in her story, even in the story of Tara, she breastfeeds Shiva because Shiva drinks this dark blue poison that arises from the void ocean. So he drinks the poison to save the world, to save creation. To save him, Tara feeds him the milk of stars. So it's like she's like the mother of the star ocean or the Milky Way. So she lets him breastfeed from her, and then he sort of falls back into his slumber. So that is kind of the idea. It is very similar to the Isis and Osiris myth. It's like she kind of, except that it's kind of has a more prominent role, right? Like it's not just Osiris's story; it's up to her as the carnal ground witch or the Dakini to rectify what has broken.
Yeah.
It's not just about her desire.
Well, and see, that takes me back. So in Catholic Mass, eat this, for it's the body of Christ. Drink this, for it is the blood of Christ.
Mm-hmm.
So for people who get all squeamish about when they hear blood and all this stuff in these religions, it's like it's in Christianity too.
100%.
The magic is in the blood. Like, doesn't mean you should be taking it out of people.
No.
Okay, I don't believe that.
I don't know.
And that's the thing is, I think there is a magical response. If you want to go left-hand path, if you want to do these dark tunnels of set rituals and pull blood out, kill people, write stuff on their skin, the most horrendous things you can think of, there might be a magical response out of that. But the karmic debt you're going to take on will be equally matched.
That's right. this has been a discussion I've been having with other people, maybe other magicians as well, is that the idea of the left-hand path, at least from my perspective in Tantric Buddhism and like Tantra just more generally, is really for this internal process. It's really for Thurgy. It's just for the things that, you know, like when you were describing having your magical experiences, how you're able to kind of get there without doing very much outside of yourself necessarily. That is what the left-hand path is for. The left-hand path is for dealing with those mind demons. And no, I'm not saying the demons are just in your mind, but when they arise, that's what they're for. It's for to overcome them. It is not to get there. So that's where people, in my opinion, have made the mistake. They use the transgressive rituals to get there. That's not what they're for. They're for to clear the spheres, to make them pristine, to give them, to liberate the light that's inside of them. That's my opinion. And I think you're very similar.
Well, and so you're talking about the process church and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Now where you're getting into is you're getting into mind control and social magic, where there is magic being done, but it's not to the people doing the rituals. They're the people being traumatized so that their minds can be controlled.
100%. And this is something that Nick from Occult Regis has talked a lot about, how a lot of the magical orders are specifically like that. Like even the OTO is like that. Like people go in with the set of intentions to, I'm going to be a magician. I'm going to read the magic books. I'm going to learn all this stuff. But really, it's meant to control you. It's not meant to liberate you. It has nothing to do with liberation. It is all about using you as a magical tool, a magical technology, because humans, the body, is the most powerful magical tool, plus our minds. So our perception of things, plus our bodies. So they're using us, and they use, but they cannot if you don't let them. If you say no, I don't accept that. I don't like. What is your will? So if you
I'll tell you like this: if you're going to join a brotherhood, and the first thing they're going to do is put a hood over your head and wrap a rope around your neck, that is no brotherhood you want to be a part of. Should let you know right then. You should walk back out that door. Do you know what I mean? Almost all of them start that way, with a rope around your neck. What do you think's going to happen?
Well, doesn't that remind you of the double card in the tarot? Of those people have the thing around their neck, but they choose. Couple can choose to take it off. It is of their own volition. So
yes, and see, that's amazing. That's so profound. The devil card, and they have this. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, they get to choose. We all get to choose, right? We all get to choose our, like, it's an ideology. We get to choose the chains. So you can choose not to have any chains. Society.
The gates of hell are locked from the inside.
That's right. So I think that was an amazing place to end it, Mike.
Yeah.
But when other people come on, or other people ask you on, which will happen, I think that then you can have your link tree, and then your work is in one place.
Yeah. Thank you for having me on. It was an honor. It's incredible. Learned a lot. Thank you so much.
Vegeta, thanks.
For what? I should be thanking you, Kakarot.
Nah, what do you mean? I loved every minute. Goodbye, my friend.